you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Let's get straight to it. We'll first start with news from Afghanistan. Now, the Taliban has said that any delay in the withdrawal of US troops will have consequences for the United States. Now, the date set by the United States for withdrawal was on the 31st of August, but President Biden had said earlier that his troops would stay on in Kabul, force the state to help evacuate civilians. Now, Taliban spokesperson has told Sky News, and I'm quoting him, it's a red line. President Biden announced that on 31st of August, they would withdraw all their military forces. So if they extend that, it means they are extending occupation while there is no need for that. He also added, if the US or UK were to seek additional time to continue evacuations, the answer is no, or there would be consequences, end quote. Meanwhile, according to the Associated Press, a firefight at one of the gates of Kabul's international airport has killed at least one Afghan security officer early this morning. Now, several people have been trying to flee the country since the Taliban's takeover in Afghanistan. Now, the shooting near the military side of the airport came as the Taliban sent fighters northward to face a nascent rebellion against them. Now, the Taliban has also blamed the chaotic evacuation on the US military, saying that there is no need for Afghans to fear them. In the meantime, the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken yesterday has said that the situation at the overcrowded Kabul airport is incredibly volatile. In an interview with Fox News, he said, and I quote, crowds have massed at the gates outside the airport. It's an incredibly volatile situation. It's an incredibly fluid situation. We've seen drenching images of people hurt, even killed, that hit you in the gut. And it's very important to make sure to the best of our ability, because it is such a volatile situation, that we do something about the crowding at the gates of the airport. And that's exactly what we're doing, end quote. Now, US President Joe Biden is set to virtually meet other leaders of G7 countries on August 24th to discuss coordination on Afghanistan policy. White House press secretary has said in a statement, and I quote, the leaders will discuss continuing our close coordination on Afghanistan policy and evacuating our citizens, the brave Afghans who stood with us over the last 2 decades, and other vulnerable Afghans, end quote. Now, the leaders are also set to discuss plans to provide humanitarian assistance and support for Afghan refugees as well. Now, a special repatriation flight by the Indian Air Force carrying 168 passengers, including 107 Indians, landed on Sunday morning near Delhi from Kabul. According to the Home Ministry, India has evacuated all its embassy staff, but an estimated 1,000 citizens still remain in several Afghan cities. Now, it's a challenge, they say, to ascertain their location and condition. Now, while referring to India's ongoing evacuation from Afghanistan, Union Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, has said that this shows necessary and how necessary it was to enact the Citizenship Amendment Act, or the CAA. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, recent developments in our volatile neighborhood and the way Sikhs and Hindus are going through a harrowing time are precisely why it was necessary to enact the Citizenship Amendment Act, end quote. Now, to give you a bit of a context, the Citizenship Amendment Act aims to grant Indian citizenship to persecuted Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, Christians from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan who arrived in India before the end of December 2014. There have been several nationwide protests as well against the CAA and the NRC. Now, moving on from news from Afghanistan, in an update in the Elgar Parishad case, the National Investigation Agency has proposed to charge 15 people arrested in the Elgar Parishad case with 16 offenses, including a charge of waging a war against the country, which is punishable with death. Now, in 2019, to give you a background, the Pune police was investigating the case before the NIA took over in 2020. The Pune police had mentioned a plot to, and I quote, assassinate Prime Minister Narendra Modi in its list of draft charges. Now, they cited an email written by a certain R to Comrade Prakash on April 18, 2017 about a Rajiv Gandhi type operation. Now, while the NIA does not mention the Prime Minister, an NIA official told the Indian Express that the draft charges have not gone into specific allegations and the evidence on this will be part of the trial. Now, the draft charges also state that the accused are members of the banned CPI Maoist and its front organizations, whose main objective is to establish a Janata Sarkar, which is people's government via revolution, supported by a commitment to protracted armed struggle to undermine and to seize power from the state. It also said that the accused conspired to demand and organize 8 crore rupees for the weapons. Now, the accused have been charged under Sections 121, which is waging a war against the country, among other charges. Moving on to news related to COVID. Now, India has reported over 25,072 new COVID cases and 389 deaths in the last 24 hours, which is a drop of nearly 19% from yesterday and the lowest in over 160 days. So that's a bit of good news. Kerala, in the meantime, reported 13,386 new COVID cases, which is nearly half the COVID cases being reported in the entire country as of Monday. Meanwhile, an expert panel that was set up by the Ministry of Home Affairs have predicted that the third wave will hit the country anytime between September and October and suggested significantly ramping up vaccination pace as well. Now, the expert committee was constituted by the National Institute of Disaster Management and also went on to say that children will have a similar risk as adults. Now, the pediatric facilities, doctors, and equipment like ventilators, ambulances, etc., are nowhere close to what may be required in case a large number of children become affected. This is what the report says. Meanwhile, Goa has extended its curfew till the 30th of August. Now, schools will remain shut, but if the school is holding competitive exams, then it will be allowed following the government's permission. They've also said that casinos, auditoriums, spas will remain prohibited. Moving on to news from the world of business. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has announced the centre's 4-year infrastructure asset monetization plan to raise 6 lakh crore rupees under the National Monetisation Pipeline. Now, the Finance Minister listed out the government's infrastructure assets to be sold over the next 4 years. Now, the top 3 sectors identified by the government are railways, airports, and coal mining. 15 railway stadiums, 25 airports, and 160 coal mining projects will be put up for asset monetization according to this plan. Now, the Finance Minister also said that the ownership will remain with the government and there will be a mandatory handback after a certain time as well. On to news from across the world right now. WHO chief has now called for a 2-month moratorium on booster doses of COVID vaccine. Now, speaking to reporters in Hungary's capital, Budapest, the WHO chief has said that he was really disappointed with the scope of vaccine donations worldwide, as many countries struggle to provide first and second doses of even small fractions or to their populations as far as the vaccines are concerned, while rich nations maintained their vaccine stockpiles. Now, he urged countries offering third doses to share what can be used for boosters with other countries so that they can increase their first and second vaccination coverage. Now, here are the countries which have already started booster shots or are planning to, and they are United States, Israel, Hungary, and several other countries in the Middle East and Asia are also planning to offer their people booster shots. Meanwhile, New Zealand Prime Minister has today announced that the coronavirus lockdown in the country has been extended by 3 days till the 27th of August, as the number of active cases in the outbreak has reached over 107. Now, the Prime Minister said the lockdown will continue until at least the end of the month in Auckland, where most of these cases have now been found. On to news from the world of sports. Only 5 athletes and 6 officials from the Indian contingent will take part in the opening ceremony of Tokyo Paralympics on Tuesday. Now, defending high jump Paralympic champion Mariyappan Thangavelu will be the flag bearer. Now, discus thrower Vinod Kumar and javelin thrower Tek Chand will also take part in the opening ceremony. Now, India has sent its largest ever contingent of 54 para athletes at the Paralympics. Now, before I go, I will leave you with a bit of a positive news. Now, Swedish steel conglomerate Hybrid has developed the first ever carbon-free steel using hydrogen instead of coal and coke. Now, it has been sold to Volvo as a part of a test run. We understand Volvo could scale up the production of cars using the materials by 2026 if the test run pans out. Thank you so much for watching. That's it here on Just the News.